it's Jean from the Inky Studio. I'm here with part 4 in a series I'm doing. I'm putting together a grungy vintage journal, and I will link down below the other parts 1 through 3 in case you missed it. And today we're going to be doing 3 different pages. I'm going to show you my process, give you things I learned along the way, some tips on using some mixed media, that type of stuff. And I hope you enjoyed it, and we will get started. For my pages, I'm going to be using watercolor paper and that cute photo, digital photo of those two little girls. I like using watercolor paper because it's very heavy so that you can do all kinds of things on it without worrying about it, seeping to the other side or being too much, too heavy. I got some vintage paper from Vintage Books here, and I selected 2 different shades, as you can see, and I'm going to use a glue stick to attach them. Sometimes I use Mod Podge. I don't like to get any glue on the front because I don't like the shininess of Mod Podge or anything like that, so try to just glue the backs. Much like we did on the covers. I have this stencil I like a lot, and I don't know the name of it. Probably called Splatters or something. And I'm going to use some walnut distress ink, and that's kind of a cool dark brown. Just randomly going around here and there. It looks like, and this is Gathered Twigs, which is a warm dark brown. So using the 2 different shades of brown, I think, kind of gives it a more authentic look to it. It's a nice way for me to add staining to a page without getting anything wet. And sometimes that's kind of what I want to do. So I'm just going to go around here and there. Using different levels of pressure. And of course we have to ink around the edges to kind of, I like inking because it serves like a bit of a frame for your eyes to kind of stay on the page. I have a very dry brush that I'm just kind of toning down the white of the watercolor paper. There are plaid dresses. I had this plaid fabric that I felt really matched it. And this cute little mother of pearl vintage button. And put on some lace, since these are little girls after all. I'm not going to glue all the way around the picture, just a little bit on the edge for interest. And that completes the first page. And I'll sew my button on that little piece of plaid. I really like looking at photographs and seeing how I can pull from what's on there into the collage. And we'll put this little askew to the top, and we have our first page completed. I'm using watercolor paper again, and I'll be using it throughout these pages here. And I'm going to just dry brush that page down a little bit. When I ink up my brush, I take off the first part of it onto the other paper and then just tone down the white. Again, I have some vintage papers from old books. Really like how this one is all chopped up there on the edge and torn. Making sure I get those edges. Now I'm going to use gesso, and I'm going to go over it in different directions with my brush, just sideways, up and down, backwards, much like we did the covers. I should have waited for the glue stick to dry because there's wrinkling, but they kind of relaxed as the whole sheet dried later on. Now the gesso not only blends the prints together, but it also provides a surface that you can write and stamp on so that the underneath doesn't, isn't too bold. And to stamp on it, I'm using a pigment ink, Versamark, I believe, and getting my stamp inked up, making sure it's stamping well. And it says, anyone who keeps the ability to see beauty never grows old. Frank Kafka. Love that quote. And I'm going to use one of the cloth strips that we made. And then I have two of these beautiful doilies. Just so lovely. I know it's hard to cut these up, but what else are they going to do but sit in a drawer? And then there's the second layer I'm going to put down there. I'm going to have them droop off the page there. And I'm going to glue them one layer at a time. I'm using glitter glue. But in the end, I use Fabri-Tac here. I want to make sure I don't cover up my wording, so I'm going to see where everything falls before I put it together. And I'm going to use Fabri-Tac and glue that onto the page. But I will take my finger and run over it a little bit so that it, a glob doesn't come through on the fabric. And there we have. Eventually I'll do the second, I'll wrap it around and do another page eventually. I love these digitals from Nick the Booksmith. They look like actual rusted nameplates there, but they're not, so kind of fun to work with, especially inside of a journal. And here is a stencil I made, and I got an advertisement that was heavy gloss on the one side. And I have a silhouette, but if you have a Cricut or something like that, you can use them as stencils. And then they're very nice to wipe off since you can't wash them in water, but you can easily wipe them off. I'm using two different colors here. I'm using this is some gathered twigs, which is kind of a round, a dark brown. I guess I just used the one. Yeah, I just used the one color. Looks like coffee cup stain to me. So they wipe off very beautifully. So something to keep in mind if you want to make your stencils. Now, I'm going to do an experiment here. Got these distressed crayons, and I did a little bit there on the left-hand side on that scrap paper, and I kind of liked it, so I thought I would repeat it. And I take a damp baby wipe, and after I draw it on, I'm just going around and kind of smearing it out. I think it was okay, but I think where I went wrong is I was too close to the wording. And when I got done, I just wasn't sure. I really liked it. So I went and printed the stamp on a piece of tea stain paper and glued that on. And actually, all that smearing looks pretty good because it is like a backdrop to that piece of paper. So that looked pretty good there. So I just thought I would do this so that you can see if you make a mistake, it's okay. You can find a way around it. I thought with the word beauty in there needed to be a little bit more put into the collage. And so I ended up with this really pretty cream colored moth print. And I thought he needed to be pointing to the words so that your eye can travel over there. And so now we have the second page. This is parchment paper that I stained using distress inks. And I have some gift wrapping tissue paper they're usually really shiny on one side and the other side is dull. And so the dull side, of course, is the one that I want to show up, want to be on the upside for something that is vintage looking. Going to use Mod Podge because I think a glue stick I would end up tearing it, which wouldn't be terrible, but I think I just use that. It's a little fiddly to do. Smooth it out with a old key card or credit card or something. And yet there is some transparency there, but I don't like to put Mod Podge on the outside. Now I'm going to do another technique with a brush. This is a dry brush. So as little as possible on the brush, and this particular one has pretty stiff bristles. It's just like a paintbrush you get to do your house with. And I just keep going over and over until I find I have enough layers on it, but it's very dry. And it kind of makes it look worn. Tones down the print a bit. And here is this lovely digital photo that I'm going to put down, this girl with her little hat. So I took this burgundy wool felt and I'm going to cut a heart shape from it. But I don't want it to look too perfect. So I keep cutting it down. In the end, I think I decided to make one side of the heart taller than the other side because I want it to be imperfect for sure. And then I got a button, another mother of pearl button, vintage button, so cute. And I'm going to sew this. I'm going to leave a little tail and then go a few times crossed in the middle and then end up with another tail so that I can just make a little tie there. I'm using pearl cotton, so it's a little thicker than regular sewing thread. It stands out a bit more. She has some eyelet lace on her collar, and so on this photo I'm going to pull that idea out into the collage. And again, I'm not going to go all the way around the frame, just to, make it look imperfect, so that it looks kind of random in a way. And I'll use glitter glue for this. Got these photographs from the Graphics Fairy premium site. And then I'm just going to put the little heart there on the right hand side. So we have the third page done. I want to wish everyone a very blessed and Merry Christmas, and that you have plenty of time to slow down and enjoy the time. I won't be seeing you again until the new year, so in the meantime, I wish you peace and love. Bye-bye.